Well, first off, thank you both for being here. I want to get back into some of those areas that Dean was speaking to. But before we do that, Jaci, I was going to give you the opportunity. I know we've had the opportunity to partner for quite some time, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk about Jelmar and some of its very unique and needed products.
Absolutely. So a lot of people might not know the name Jelmar, but you'll know some of our brands and our products. So we are a company that relieves consumers of stress associated with cleaning tough jobs in your house. That's what we do. We're a third generation woman-owned business. The products that you'll probably know are CLR, the calcium lime rust remover, and Tarn-X, if you're old enough to remember the commercials where you did that infamous dip, right, of the silver product that comes clean immediately. So that's who we are, what we do. We are incredibly passionate about patents and formulas. So a lot of our formulas are patented, and our consumers love efficacy. So that's who we are.
Thanks. All right. So for context, we have the pleasure of partnering with Jaci and her team at Jelmar on a number of paid and organic channels. And our sister agency, Betty, also powers the brand and creative strategy as well. So together, what we're looking to do is ultimately move those great, unique products off the shelves as quickly as we possibly can. But I want to go back, right? Kind of where we first started working together, right? So we're going back a couple of years now. Jaci, first coming to you in terms of, I'd like to think back to, why we were kind of engaging. What was it that we were kind of thinking about as we started working with, Rise and the Betty team? And also with a lens of thinking about that with regards to what you had in knowledge around, as you said, third generation company, you had to have some data and knowledge with regards to the target customer, which was ultimately starting the work that we did with Keisha and her team. So I'm going to start there first.
Yeah, you bet. And then I'll definitely hand it over to Keisha. So third generation, a little bit of some old school thinking sometimes, as you can imagine, right? We still have an 80-year-old second generation that still likes to be involved in the business. So, doesn't he, Dan? He does. So a little bit. So what we really needed, we needed some strong ROI analysis. We needed to understand where our money was going, where we could spend it more effectively. We really needed that integrated approach. So when we first came into meeting the Rise team, we were on a short timeline. We had gone dark for 6 months, even a little longer than that. So we were in a rush. So we did some parallel pathing. We did a segmentation study, and we learned who our consumers, we looked into the different consumer segments. We learned about the need states, and we were all in. We were convinced. We knew who our customer was. We know the segment. We know we have an engaged achiever. We know that 45% of the household cleaning is a tough job. It's your kitchens and your bathrooms. We're all in. We walk into Rise and we say, this is our customer, and this is what we want you to do for us. And then what happened?
Oh, goodness.
Well, now,
You had your own.
They did.
Oh,
They
okay.
gave me one.
so now I'm going to go right to Keisha with regards to that as a good segue. So, right. And this is a familiar situation, right? Is that there's a lot of good data and information that you're coming to us with, and we don't want to dismiss that. But it's kind of Dean was sharing too, is that we also have access to quite a bit of information. And what are we able to validate? And ultimately, what are we able to, let's say, challenge potentially with some of the assumptions? So Keisha, now I'm going to pass it to you, is to say, kind of, we understood kind of where it started, right? Which is what kind of Jaci just alluded to. Or Jaci, you want to?
I forgot something.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. So this was the day we walked into the room and we were all convinced, and this is what Keisha showed us, right? So you won't be able to see it very well, but this is what we thought our audience is the blue dot. And the red one is our existing customer base. And look at what happened. The integration between the two, we would have, and then Keisha will tell you the story, but I walked in the room, I saw this, and I got the biggest pit in my stomach. I'm like, holy smokes, we are about to make the biggest mistake of our lives. All right, take it over.
So Keisha, that's where it started.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about
well, first of all, hi everyone. My name is Keisha Hooks. You've seen my boss this morning. I work underneath Dean in the connections planning discipline. And the thing that we have forgot to mention, very directly is the role of vetting. So my job in connections planning, one of them is to be the connective tissue between creative and media. So at this point in the work stream, creative has been kicked off. The messaging is done, we're in production. So you've got messaging that is very direct. Use our product indoors. That's what we're trying to do. Use us more, and we've got a variety of usage occasions. We're focusing on 4 products. So then they realize that the people you think you're talking to and the people you want are distinct. There's a overlap of less than 1 million people. But we've got 4 jobs to do. I've got to tell you how to use my product indoors. I want you to buy me more often. So I've got to tell you, don't use it for 1 thing, use me for 4 things. We want to talk to the people who currently buy us. And we also want to talk to men. Heard. So when she sees this slide and she realizes our current customers and the people you think are your customers are distinct. So if I want to do what you asked me to do, the plan's going to be a bit different. So you want to talk to men, but you want people to use you more indoors. So we look at the data, and the data say the men are not using you indoors. Men are using you for 4 things. They're cleaning the pools, they're cleaning their grills, they're cleaning the tools, things of that nature. But I can get you closer to what you want. It's just not going to be men. And I don't think I've ever told you this, but I remember this meeting. You were so receptive, right? We've never met in person before. We've had a litany of phone calls, but we've never met in person. You were so open and receptive to having your hypotheses rebutted. And I appreciate immensely the flexibility. You weren't looking for a waitress to just give you what you asked for. We went back and we showed you, if you want to talk to men, that's great, but you're not going to get the indoor usage occasions like you wanted. And if you talk to men, the plan is completely different. We're talking to you in golf and fishing and hunting versus talking to you in a way that is aligned with our creative messaging. So again, my job is to connect creative and media. Well, your ad showing you kitchens and bathrooms is not going to matter to the men. So I can give you what you want, but understand your plan is going to be different, or I can get you closer to what you want by targeting our priority audience, but also targeting the women who currently buy your product. That person looks very much like your engaged achiever. There are some nuances, but they're closer than targeting to men. And now we've got an audience of 20 million people, which is definitely going to get you the sales you're seeking. So it took 2 conversations to show you everything you needed. There was a back and forth. You had questions, I answered, and we ended up with an audience that is not exactly what you thought, but giving you what you need. So thank you for being so open to that.
Well, it was a great 36 hours.
It was a long.
It was an interesting 36 hours, but it was great.
Hopefully you're feeling, I remember being in that room, we were going through some of these conversations. And, to build upon what Keisha was sharing is that, yes, the receptivity, Jaci, that you and your team and Adrian obviously brought to the table was necessary. But I wanted to come back to when we're having some of those meetings, that's 36 hours. We're going through the insights that Keisha's team is starting to share, right? What were some of those insights that stood out to you that allowed you to say, you know what, the initial segmentation study that I have and some of the information that I know about this target, there were some insights that they provided that really truly illuminated allowed me to be receptive to the recommendations that we were bringing. Do you remember a couple of those things that kind of stood out to you in terms of like, oh yeah, this is a couple of those ones where I'm like, I'm buying a little bit what they're selling here.
Yeah, I'm a visual person, so the Venn diagram certainly helped, no doubt. I think Keisha hit on a lot of it already, because it really was who you think you need to grow the business. You got to be so careful not to abandon the customer you already have. And we were so focused on growing that we forgot, honestly, you don't want it to be a trade-off. It's got to be incremental business. That's what we really want. And that really came to light in that 36 hours. It was super important. And then going even deeper into great, and then how we're going to deliver the message. A lot of what Dean and everyone was just sharing, like I liked all those charts up there. is how to deliver the message and getting out of our comfort zone there. Again, generations of linear TV is it. This is how we spend our money. We do infomercials and this is it. This is who we are. Well, that's not who the consumer is anymore. So really opening up, and that's you're in a comfort zone. Your comfort zone may not be working, but it's still your comfort zone. And it's hard to say, all right, here we go. We're putting our eggs in this basket and we trust that what you're saying is addressable TV, video, everything you just heard is exactly what we did. Now you want to dig into that a little more.
Well, I think there was also a level of trust when we talked about the new audience. It felt right. This audience is promiscuous. When I say that in the kindest way possible, they're not brand loyal. So these are the folks. If you can imagine, you look underneath their kitchen sink, and there's a multitude of cleaning products. There's carpet fresheners and deodorizers and SOS pads. Like, this is not the average cleaner. So when I explained to you, here's how they shop, it made sense because it sounded familiar. We were on the right path. We also sort of understood how they consumed media. And I think you were persuaded that what was happening in the pre-COVID time period, when everyone was looking for cleaning products, well, what was going on in the culture at that moment, it was a little different. People aren't in this frenzy anymore. They need efficacy. And how are they learning about efficacy? It's not just from a 30-second ad. It's not just from a banner. It is from word of mouth recommendations. And we knew that our audience cared about that. It wasn't price. They're not looking for coupons and trying to get the on sale product. They want quality. They want efficacy. How do we prove it? It's not a banner ad. It is an influencer communicating how we use this product and how it works. So we talked about it a moment ago. It was about, yeah, I got to introduce the product to you, but I got to educate you. And you are open to saying, we have to put more money in influencers. We have this competitive pressure. Everyone else is using influencers. I'm telling you, these people are promiscuous. They're not going to buy you and only you. So let's talk to them in a way that's going to be persuasive and change our media mix a bit. And you were up for that as well.
We found some great influencers too, I have to say, really helping us get to the next generation.
Yeah, it worked.
I don't think I'm repeating the question that you were already talking about, because I feel like there were some nuances, a couple ahas as we went through this. More so in terms of not just in the audience. I think we're talking, quite about that. But if you could think back to, again, as we're going through this, and before we get into some of the other pivots we also had to make during this part. But what were, Jaci, first to you and then to Keisha, because, Keisha, you were coming at it in terms of what Jaci was sharing. Jaci, you're coming at it now with what Keisha's trying to share. So I'm thinking about it in terms of, do you remember a couple of those ones that you're like, this is a surprise. This is something that I was either I wasn't expecting, or if it was something that I was, it was significantly confirming something that already came into it.
I feel like you have something in mind that I'm forgetting. Do you have a hint?
Well, I mean, I could think about it in terms of where we were starting in terms of two different audiences, and then we had to think about how we were penetrating, how we were measuring that part of it. But I was thinking more in terms of when we're asking in terms of just, whether it was a channel, whether it was a nuance with a particular audience of the recommendations that Keisha and team were providing, that you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That was a bigger surprise than what I was, even what I was open to, I guess.
I'm going to throw you for a loop.
Okay.
So,
Good.
Me too.
no, it's we were talking about earlier, because I said, you know what, honestly, I did remember you asked me to talk about a surprise. And I thought, honestly, when you work so closely together, your relationship evolves, what you're working on evolves. And to me, when I think a big surprise is something I didn't know and I wasn't a part of. And I have to say, what I really loved about this relationship and all the way through is we're learning things together, and we're evolving together and discovering, and we work together on a weekly basis. And I read every number that's given to me. Yeah, I read, and I have questions, and I just so appreciate how we're growing together. And I apologize if I can't think of a big surprise, but I can't, because I feel like we're in this together and we evolve every week. All
right, Keisha, I'm going to throw the same question then to you also too. No, I mean, that's helpful.
Okay?
No. And by the way, we appreciate that you're reading the numbers and all the readout too. It's not, sometimes we're not everybody's always reading what we're showing, but Keisha, you came in, all right. So we have, segmentation study. You've done a significant amount of research. You remember back in terms of a couple of things, you're like, you know what? That was, I'm really excited to share this one to Jaci and team, because I wasn't even expecting that. And again, it could also be with some of the things we also had to decide about when we were talking about the measurement side too.
And that's the only thing that I can think of. What was interesting with our assignment is the SOW was written long before you and I ever, laid eyes on each other. So in our SOW, we were supposed to do a media mix analysis, essentially looking 2 years behind us. We just won the business, so I'm going to look at 2 years of someone else's work to figure out if display made sense or if search made sense. Well, no, I actually don't want to do that. And again, we're looking at a COVID time period. So why would I rely on the dynamics? Why am I looking backwards? Just quite frankly. So again, this is an instance where I need people to go in stores and grab me off the shelf. I cannot measure what's going on online to determine my value and my success. And we are accountable to you. So we decided that it's not going to be a 2-year look back. We're going to impose a new measurement solution and redirect those funds so that I can tell you in as close to real time as possible, is audio working? Right. Are our how-to videos working? And again, you had this strongly held beliefs, but it was loosely held, so you were open to. Dan did his work, like he helped convince you that path A is not the right path anymore. And you're okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, that shift from mixed media modeling to TMM was absolutely the right thing for us, and telling us in real time what our ROI was on all the tactics that we were engaged in. And that is the audio. No, forget it. Pinterest works for traffic, not awareness. It did tell us exactly what we needed to know so that we can be more effective moving forward.
Honestly, I had to fight you. That was a surprise.
I don't think I put up a fight on that one.
Right. It was me and you going at it.
There's a reference. Thank you.
Right.
There's a reference that we will chat about later when Jaci was talking about the measurement side that we'll also be talking a little bit more, but that's more of a lens. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is that we were, right? If you look back 2 years, right, even where people are buying the product completely shifted, right? What's the point of looking at, none of us in this room want to have to think back to things that we were doing in 2020 and 2021, right? The world was completely different. So as we were thinking about that, and I remember having these conversations saying, that's not going to inform, and that's not going to tell us, going back all the way to what Joshua was sharing, if we're being held accountable, right? The media that we're thinking about investments is going to be accountable. How do we know that this is really moving product off the shelf, right? So one of the other things we also had to understand, and this is what I was going to come back, is that while connecting it to the store sales, in between there, right, we also had to know the things that we were optimizing on a regular basis before we had that more deeper analysis that we'll talk about in just a little bit when we get to the measurement side. I can speak to it, but I wanted to, if you recall, but give it to Keisha and then to Jaci. What were some of those discussions that we were having with regards to, we're going to have this analysis in a few months that's going to tell us we're in the right direction, but what are we going to do in those initial months to know that we feel like we're on the right path? Do you remember kind of those?
I think we created the bridge analysis.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, good grief.
I'm leading the witness here.
Yes,
so
that was also a conversation around flexibility. That's right. We created something that did not exist. I do remember that now. Because we needed something short term, we needed immediate intel, and the TMM was going to take a bit of time.
Mhm.
Our analytics team came up with something custom to meet the moment. That's right. We did do that. Wow, we did a good job.
We got a lot. Sorry.
if I can put you on the spot, is that something that you're comfortable if you wanted to kind of speak to kind of what that conversation would look like? If you remember what we were talking about there, because we were in a number of months, we were going to have a deeper analysis, but we came and said, we need to know something that how do we know we're doing it right now? Okay.
But I can tell you how much I appreciate the work that was done getting to Team N.
Okay. At a high
Go
level,
ahead.
all right,
tell us.
I'll just up on this one. At a high level, ultimately, the analysis that we're talking about was connecting the media to in-store sales. That takes time, that takes energy, it takes a lot of data consolidation and a lot of hygiene around how we're connecting media to the in-store sales. But in that interim, right, from whether it's offline or online media, we are putting things in market and we are optimizing it to different metrics that we're able to see within the engine. So how do we ultimately know, like, the decisions that we're making now are going to ultimately set us up in learnings for the future? So whether that is a video completion rate in, in YouTube or a particular element, or whether that is traffic or what they're engaging with on the website, the store locator, all those elements is say, how are we able to, at a very high level, kind of correlate those actions to some initial in-store data? So it's just putting us on the right path to before we're going to make larger media mix shifts based on that TMM analysis. So
Yeah, the numbers that we look at every week.
correct.
Every number, there's about, let me see, 5 different categories, 30 columns. We go through it every week. So yes, absolutely. And we watch that and make adjustments along the way on a regular basis.
All right, last question, because I think we're getting close to time before we pass it along. So my question is going to be, right, that's kind of where we are, right? I know we actively have, media in the wild today, right? We continue to connect it back to business outcomes of where we're trying to drive, i.e. sales and velocity. But, what's next? What are some of those things that we're excited about, whether it's related to what we've learned already from everything we've just chatted about, and how is that driving some of the things that we are evolving without obviously sharing, secret sauce with regards to what we're truly trying to do,
You and I were speaking earlier, and I think you nailed it. Our relationship has been built on transparency, flexibility, and agility. I'm looking forward to that. I've never said this to you before, but I've spent 20 years in client service, whether it's practicing law or working in advertising. And I love the fact that you understood we were just here to do what was best. And so I look forward to just more of that relationship. You and I were talking in the hallway about a business problem that when I get back in the office, we're going to start coming up with a people first solution. So I just looking forward to more of these types of things. You called it transparency, agility, flexibility. So more of that to come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to echo that transparency. We share everything with the RISE team. After a Walmart meeting, after a customer meeting, we share everything. We share our POS, because they can't be partners in growth if we're not transparent. They hear about the good days and the bad days. They're there to help us with our stories and to help us find solutions. So what's next for us? We've had a great foundation over the last year. Our Been There, Outdone That campaign is fabulous if you haven't seen it. So thank you to the Betty team and the RISE team on that. And we're going on a shoot next week for round 2 commercials coming up, really leaning into the millennial generation with this round of commercials. Super fun. Someone said it earlier, content experience. I don't know who said it, but this one's going to be an experience. So we're excited. Hey, we've been at this for 3 generations. Looking forward to the next and maybe a few more after that. So thank you very much.
And what I learned is that if I just want to get Keisha just to open up on our weekly calls, I just put her on the stage in front of about 80 people, and then she'll tell all the things that Jackie needs to hear. So that's what I learned throughout all of this. But I want to thank you both.
You're welcome.
You've been it's amazing to partner with Keisha and your team with regards to everything, and Jackie, all the journey that we've had together. I echo everything that Keisha said in terms of you've always treated us as a true extension of the team, and that's what I think the partnership's built on. So thank you both. A round of applause for both of them, please.